Hi, this is James Gordon of October Library here with a book review. Today's book I'm reviewing today, No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. This book was first published in 2005 by Alfred A. Knopf. This edition is from Vintage from 2007. This was a reread. I read this book after seeing the movie of the same name back in 2000. When did it come out? 2008, and I actually kind of find the book better than the film. Like, the film is still worth a watch. However, there's some things I don't like with the film, which they changed some scenes around in the book. The book is a lot more dark, well, a lot more darker, grittier, and violent. However, despite all that, there's some things in the book I don't like, and some other issues I have with this book, which I'll explain later in my review. But overall, this was still a good, solid crime thriller from the mid-2000s. So this is a really good book, and it's a shame this author passed away. He wrote some really good books. Alright, onto the book review. Plot. Moss, an ex-Vietnam vet and professional welder, is out hunting in the wilderness of Texas that's close by to the Mexican border. Using his Mauser 98 with a high-powered scope, he spots a herd of pronghorns. He wounds one and follows its blood trail, only to discover 3 trucks parked in the middle of nowhere. Upon walking towards the trucks, Moss finds that all 3 trucks are riddled with bullet holes, dead bodies lying on the ground with guns, and even dead dogs. It's a drug deal gone awry. Approaching one truck with a wounded man inside, begging for water, which Moss replies, "I ain't got no water." He takes the man's HK SMG and checks the back of the truck to find a shipment of brown heroin. Moss then goes searching for the last man standing, knowing he's the one with the money. He finds the man dead, lying against a tree. Moss takes the dead man's nickel-plated Colt government pistol, then opens the satchel case as it's filled with money, a stack of $100 bills. With no witnesses to the crime scene and tight on cash, Moss plans to take the money for himself. Leaving the area and returning to his truck, Moss drives to a trailer park and hides the HK SMG under the trailer. His wife, Carla Jean, doesn't press him when she sees him carrying the stuff he brought back. Unable to sleep, feeling guilt of leaving the man with no water, Moss gets up and pours an empty jug full of water at 1 in the morning and goes to give the man some water. Carl wants him to stay but refuses to listen. Upon returning to the spot, Moss finds the man dead as he's been shot in the head. Suddenly, a truck appears out of the darkness as it's speeding towards this way. Moss runs into the darkness and is shot in the shoulder by buckshot and escapes by swimming through a river. After escaping the 2 men, Moss limps back to his truck to find his tires have been slashed, as he'll have to walk back home on foot. Knowing that they'll be looking for the money and have gotten the PIN number off his truck, he gets back home and orders Carla to go stay with her mother while he takes the case full of money. He plans to reunite with her once it's safe. The following day, Sheriff Ed Tom Bell is called upon the crime scene of a drug deal. Investigating further, they discover Moss's truck, which Bell is puzzled why would he be involved in this. They also discover a burnt-out 77 Ford and its driver with a wound in his forehead lying on the road. Bell knows this is only the beginning of things to come. Meanwhile, Anton Chigurh, a ruthless and deadly hitman, is searching for Moss. He reaches Moss's trailer and uses his captive bolt to pop off the lock. Entering inside, he looks through the trailer but doesn't find Moss or the money. He drinks some milk, takes the envelopes from Moss's mail, and leaves. Moss takes a bus to Del Rio, then goes to a cheap motel, takes some of the money out of the case, treats his wounds, then hides the case inside the air duct and sleeps with the HK SMG resting next to him. When he wakens, he hides his SMG under the mattress, gets breakfast, a clean pair of clothes from Walmart, a pair of cowboy boots. After eating dinner at a restaurant, he finds a car parked in front of his motel room. Moss pays the driver to take him to another motel. The following morning, Moss goes to a sporting goods store, buys a Winchester 12-gauge shotgun, a hack saw, rope, file, duct tape, nylon bag, along with tent poles. Moss cuts down the barrel along with the stock, filing it to give it a pistol grip. He then ties rope around to give it a sling. Moss goes back to the motel room and rents the room behind his to retrieve his case by using the tent poles. At the same time, Chigurh tracks the case full of money down with the receiver and pulls into the motel. He gets the room and studies every inch of it, knowing the layout of everything. He then takes his captive bolt pistol along with a Remington automatic shotgun with a custom-made silencer attached to the barrel. Sugar removes his boots and walks towards the motel room. He pops off the lock, then enters with his silenced Remington at the ready. He shoots a Mexican gang member 3 times, then pumps 2 shots into the bathroom door, then fires off a few more shots. He enters the bathroom and finds a wounded gang member holding an AK-47. Sugar pulls the shower curtains and finishes him off with a headshot. Sugar searches every inch of the room for the case but doesn't find it until he checks the air duct, removing the cover, and finds scratch marks inside. Moss quickly flees with the money. Reaching another motel as he's close to the Mexican border, Moss bribes the hotel clerk $100 to phone his room if anyone comes in asking for him. Moss then takes the case and empties all the money from it and finds a tracker placed inside of it. He flushes it and puts all the money into the case, knowing someone is coming after him. Moss awakens in the middle of the night and senses danger is near. Reaching for his shotgun with the case close by, suddenly the lock to his motel room is popped off as the door opens. Moss orders the intruder to drop his gun and step inside. Sugar enters as he gives Moss a very uneasy feeling seeing this tall man with blue eyes and dark hair. Taking his silent shotgun, Moss orders him out of the room, then leaves him at the bottom of the stairs. Unable to shoot him, Moss runs back to his room, gets the case, and climbs out of the bathroom, but is wounded by Sugar with his silenced Uzi. Moss fires off a few shots from his shotgun and flees. Ditching Sugar's shotgun and tucks his weapon back into the nylon bag, Moss crosses the U.S.-Mexican border and tosses the case over the bridge, buys a jacket off some teens walking towards the border, and goes to get a doctor. Sugar is wounded in the leg. He wraps a towel around his leg and limps back to his truck. Moss awakens in the hospital with an ex-Special Forces, now hitman, Carl Wells. He warns Moss that he and his wife are in danger if he doesn't hand over the money. He also states that Anton Sugar is a ruthless killer that won't stop until he's dead. Carson promises to give him a share of the cut of the money once he hands it over. Moss will think it over, but still believes he can deal with Sugar. Belle speaks with Moss's wife, Carla Jean, warning her that her husband is in danger and needs to be located before time runs out. After making a full recovery, Moss plans to meet up with his wife and ensure he gets to keep the money. However, Sugar won't rest till he finds his target and money, along with everyone else that's becoming involved in this deadly game of cat and mouse. No Country for Old Men is a dark, gritty, and violent thriller, highly detailed from the hot, blazing deserts and wildlands to the small towns and big cities of Texas and Mexico, while hiding the darkness of crime happening both in broad daylight and night. While there were characters like within this novel, however, I felt some of the others felt a bit flat and dry. Anton Sugar is a ruthless yet skilled hitman who you don't know who he's going to kill next, and his methods always work. One of the best villains I read in a crime novel. Moss was another character I liked. His fearless determination and risking his life while trying to claim ownership of the money that put a price on his head. While his combat skills do save his life, but sadly it is enough as the ending doesn't always play out in our favor. While the pacing was good and writing structure, but what I didn't like how McCarthy writes his dialogue. He doesn't use quotation marks or commas during the scenes when characters are talking, and doesn't state who said what when there are more than 2 characters within a scene. And he doesn't even space out the sentences between the scenery within the novel when the characters are talking. He has the 2 things together and it makes reading a bit of a mess. I wish he used quotation marks and commas to make the dialogue easier to read through, as it would make it better. I also felt some of the dialogue could be a bit dry at times when 2 characters were talking to each other. Another problem I had was McCarthy having weapons that were not from 1980. While one I noticed early on in the novel when Moss spots a auto-pump shotgun with a drum magazine, I figured out it was a US AS-12, which he wrote in the name, then describing it. While reading this novel, I found several weapons that were not out yet in 1980, such as Glock's Tech-9's HK submachine gun along with Remington 1187. McCarthy should have put more research into the firearms of the 80s, and even putting the date and year into the novel would have made it easier to know what era of the 80s No Country for Old Men takes place in. As for the '07 film of the same name, it's a good film that's well shot, solid cast of actors. While it does tone down some of the violence from the novel and change a few scenes around, there were some scenes I felt were improved from the novel in the film, while there were scenes in the novel I liked better than the film. However, what I didn't like with the film is how they cut scenes out of the novel that explains important detail to the reader, like why was Anton Chigurh arrested at the beginning of the novel, who hired him to get the money, along with some origin story of Chigurh and Wells used to work together during the war before becoming hitman. Another thing I didn't like in the film was the Coen brothers' idea of making Anton Chigurh deaf, as this doesn't make any sense. Why would a supernatural being like deaf need money for? They hint this towards the end of the film when he suddenly disappears. This doesn't belong in the story, but the film is still worth a watch. Overall, I highly recommend the No Country for Old Men. It's a good crime thriller from the mid 2000s. Despite its flaws, it's still worth a read, and if you haven't seen the film, check it out. It's worth watching too. Alright, that's for the review today. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, this was nice reading this book again. I haven't read this book in a very long time, and I decided to pull it out and read it again. It's a shame, too, that Cormac McCarthy passed away. He is a good writer. I read this book and The Road, which are both good books. I also have The Crossing. I'll have to get around and read sometime. And I got a few other books on my wish list I'd like to check out as well, but I kind of like the book better. Like it explains a lot more things than the film does. Like for example, the beginning of the film when Anton Chigurh is being arrested, it never states why he was arrested, and that was something that always puzzled me. It's like why is he being arrested for? There's a scene where Chigurh is talking to Wells, and he tells Wells that he was arrested after killing a man at a bar, and I thought, okay, that explains why he was arrested at the beginning of the book, and it also explains why he was after the money, which is another thing, too. They took out the film, and I don't understand why they felt the need to take that out, and then to make him deaf. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Why would deaf want money for? Like, to me, it's one of the most terrible things you could do to a story. Like, add a supernatural element when it doesn't belong there. I don't know why the Coen brothers did that. To me, it's like one of the kind of yeah, they did such a good job in the film. Then they add this goofy thing into the mix, which almost ruins the story. If it almost ruins it. However, though, the film does also have another explanation that Chigurh just opened the window and just escaped from Tom Bell at the end of the film, that's more reasonable thing. But this whole idea that he's deaf and it doesn't make any sense. I know it just kind of bugged me. Like, he's not deaf, he's just a very skilled and ruthless hitman who enjoys doing what he does. What else? As I said, there are scenes that are changed from the book, from the film. Like the ending is a bit different from the film, and it's still a dark ending. Like, it's an ending you don't expect. You're like, God damn! I was hoping this character would make it to the end, but sadly, as I said, things don't play on our favor. There is the book also has a bunch of passages of Tom Bell's thoughts on his past life and other things, and I just kind of skip those. Because I thought if I have to read every single thought this character has, it would just made this book a bit longer to read through. So I was just trying to get this book wrapped up as quickly as I could, and I enjoyed it. But the one issue, the other two issues I have with this book is that I don't like the fact that Cormac McCarthy doesn't use quotation marks or commas in his dialogue. Like, that's like a common rule that every author does, and he's one of the few authors I've read that doesn't do this, and I really don't like that because it makes reading a bit of a mess. Like he has the dialogue within the scenery, so it's like the sentences are not spaced out. Like, they're not spaced out; they're all together, and it's kind of a bit of a mess to read. So that's one thing I didn't like about it. And sometimes character dialogue, like when there's a bunch of characters talking, he has these paragraphs where a character says one thing, then another character says anything, but he doesn't put the names. So it's like I don't like when authors do that, because you're trying to figure out who said what. I don't like that, because sometimes when there's multiple characters talking, and the author just puts dialogue, but he doesn't say who said what, it makes it kind of difficult. Like, who said this line? So, and the other thing I didn't like was the fact that there's weapons that are not from from the era of 1980, like the ones I mentioned during my review, like Glocks didn't come out to 82. Tech 9s didn't come out to 83 or 4, I think. Or no, 85. Sorry, 85. And the shotgun that Einstein Sugar uses did not come out to 87. I thought it would have been more, to me, it would have been made more sense if he had the USAS 12, because that holds a lot of ammo. It's a automatic, and he could put a silencer on it. That would have made more sense. I wish McCarthy did some research when he put into the weapons. That way he could have picked, correct weapons for the that came out in 1980, or he actually put a dates. That way we know what era of the 80s this story takes place in, because he doesn't. He said, like, the book says it takes place in the 80s, but what era of the 80s? Is it early 80s, mid 80s, or late 80s? Like that. I feel that when an author puts a date, then you know exactly what era the story in year takes place in. But when you don't describe that, then some people have trouble. Okay, what year did the story take place in? And sometimes they do these, like, film imitations. They put the, like, a weapon that's mentioned in the book, but it's not from the correct era. So yeah, like for example, like when I'm writing a story and I have a character use a weapon, I find out what year the weapon came out in, so that way the character has the correct weapon of the era it's in, so it fits in within the story, and vehicles and music and all that other stuff. So I just wish Cormac McCarthy put a little more research into the weapons in the 80s, like when he says the HK SMG, he doesn't say what kind it is, and in the film they got this one that's from the later 80s, and I actually looked up myself, and the only early 80s HK SMG would have been an MP5, and I thought he should have either put that name in the book or picked something else that was actually from the 1980s. Other than that, this is still still a good book to read, and the film is definitely worth watching. All right, that's it for the review today. Hope you enjoyed it. And for my next book, I will be read for the very first time on this channel, Concrete Island by J.B. Ballard. I have a bunch of books on my shelf, and I decided it's time to start reading some J.B. Ballard on this channel. So this is not a thick book. This is a short one, so this won't take me long to read and get a review up soon. And then after I'm done this, I'm going to do some graphic novels just to change up a little bit after I'm done with this book. And then after I'm done with the 2 graphic novels, I'm then going to get ready for October Terror. Alright. Okay. That's it for the review today. Hope you enjoyed it, and please don't forget to subscribe to October Library, the YouTube channel, and like this video as well. I'll place and post and review fiction. Until then, I'll catch you later.